Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Mike D, the referee, joining you again here from lovely New Jersey. And we are now in the thick of things here. Our season has started. We had our week 0 here in the high school season this past weekend. Got a game coming up tomorrow night and then a freshman game or something Saturday. I don't know. I got a couple of games going on. But before I introduce my guest, I want to go through my quick little spiel here. If you're enjoying the show, hit those like and follow and subscribe buttons. Do me that favor. Totally free. Doesn't cost you anything. And it helps more people find the podcast, hopefully, that you are enjoying while you're at it. If you want to leave a quick rating or review, I truly do appreciate that. Again, that only takes a minute. If you're listening to this in the car, please do not do that. Drive safely. But then when you get to wherever you're going, if you want to throw me a quick comment or feedback, I truly appreciate it. And if you know somebody who would enjoy the show, share it with them on social media. Also, if you love seeing my beautiful face here, my wife tells me sometimes, you can go check us out on YouTube. I got my own YouTube channel at Mike D, the referee. Okay, so you can go to youtube.com at Mike D, the referee. Hit subscribe there too. Once again, the more we get it out there, the more the voices are out there. So, with all that fun stuff said, I got a friend of the show joining us tonight for a second running here. And it's a guy who's kind of been a little bit of everywhere with it. Mike VanderVelde joining us from the Big 12 Conference through the state of Michigan and now down in Louisiana, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
Mike, once again, thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule for jumping on my show here. I truly do appreciate it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity again.
So for those people that are watching the show and not just listening, Mike may look familiar because you may have just recently seen him this past weekend at a little college game. I don't know. You were in Atlanta, I think, Mike?
Yeah, we opened up. We had South Carolina and Virginia Tech on Sunday night.
That was a pretty nice game to finish the Labor Day weekend off. And Mike also is somebody who has done not one but 2 Rose Bowl games, so a pretty big game. And then last year, you got to do 2 college football playoff games with the quarterfinal and the semifinal games of the NCAA Championship Bowl Series.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. So, Mike, I bend the knee. I once again appreciate you taking the time out. The credentials are impeccable, and truly do appreciate you taking the time to jump on here.
Absolutely, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity, and I can't believe the season's rocking and rolling already, man. It's week 2 here for the college season after 3 great weeks, and I know high school officiating is rocking and rolling here in Louisiana as we open up week 1, and our local high schools are ready to rock. So exciting times, and the NFL season is rolling right now. So football is here, and we're going to be rocking it all the way until February now. So let's get rolling.
It is the season. I had my first pumpkin coffee the other day, so
there you go.
It's that little reminder that we're back in the season. The reason now, Mike, that I reached back out to you again is now that the season is around, and I wish I would have reached out a little bit earlier. But I want to kind of touch on. I know a lot of the listeners out there are big NCAA fans. Either they're officiating at other levels, even at the D1 level, or they're just officiating at the high school level. And we always do talk about some of the differences between the college game and the high school game. And I know that you're still involved in Louisiana with helping out the high school officials, so you're well versed in the high school rules as well. But I just finished off a series a couple weeks ago where Daniel Chamberlain and I went through the whole NFHS rule book, and then we talked about some of the changes and some of the points of emphasis of different things like that. So I wanted to bring you on to see if we can kind of touch base on some of the big rule changes for this upcoming season. And like you said, the full season that's the full swing season that we're in already now, with the college game. So what are some of the big rules changes that Mr. Shaw has put out to you guys, Steve Shaw of the NCAA?
Yeah, there's been a few points of emphasis and editorial changes and things this year into the college game, and not too many major changes. Just some primary things. We talked a little bit about the feigning injury and the impact of that on the game and how we're going to handle that on the field. Um, Made a little bit of a difference in terminology in the replay booth. As referees, you're going to hear us say, upheld versus the term stands and confirm. We can talk a little bit more about that too. One clarification that was really good, I think, was the unsportsmanlike conduct
Okay.
foul. That's in there, but now we're penalizing that from the previous spot if it's in the backfield. So that's always a nice addition there. So that used to be an enforcement spot that really was from the spot of the foul, and so now we're able to move that up to back to the previous spot. So it's consistent with other spots there. So from our enforcement standpoint, so yeah, all pretty good things. Just kind of clarifying a few things here and there, which allowed us to kind of get things going for the major season here coming up. So
So let's dive into the feigning of the injuries one, because I know that that's a big one, and I do have a couple of video clips here from the training that Steve Shaw put out to the NCAA about it. But something that we talk about with the high school level, and I'm sure it comes to you guys too, is I'm Mike D, the referee, quote unquote. I'm Mike D, the gym teacher. I'm not
mm-hmm.
Dr. Michael D'Ambrosio by any means. So when it comes to an injury at the high school level, we're doing everything beyond caution because we don't want it to fall back on us. But then at the collegiate level, we were seeing it more and more in the big games and the 2 minute situations where all of a sudden a player would look to the sideline and then it looked like they got sniper shot from the upper tier, when it was just to stop the clock or to slow the pace of the game down. So
Mm-hmm.
how were you guys instructed to kind of handle that and go about dealing with that situation?
Yeah, I think a lot of different thoughts that came out of there. I mean, primarily we want to continue to do what we do pre-snap routine, right? And play is over. We want to scan the area. We want to officiate what happened, and if we can notice that there's a potential injury there, that we're aware of it, right? And if we, go to spot the ball and we know it, we can kill the play and then allow for that player to exit the field without any penalty or timeout being charged to the defense or offense, whoever had that foul. And so that's really the charge going forward. Ideally, we just want to prevent as many of those potential feigning injuries that teams are trying to take advantage of an up tempo team or whatever circumstance that they find themselves in a disadvantaged situation. So
Yeah, and again, here with the high school level, we are the trickle down effect of the NCAA. I mean, we've talked to nauseum about the uniform stuff that the NCAA has going on. But when it came to the feigning of the injuries, we started to see it in a couple of our games in the previous year or so, of all of a sudden this magical cramp appearing on somebody. And at this point in time, we're still kind of locked in that we're killing the clock, unfortunately. And it's not becoming a charge timeout at the high school level because, again, God forbid that player is truly injured, and
yeah,
we don't have that extra set of eyes in the sky looking. I know NFL has the concussion protocol people that are there. We don't have that one. So if the person really is injured and we're like, oh, he's faking it, then it kind of falls on our laps. So with you guys, what protection do you have as an official if you're going to hit somebody for a delay of game penalty, because that's in essence what it turns into, or a timeout?
after all three timeouts have been taken, then it would be a delay game. But I think it's for us it's pretty straightforward. If a player goes down to the ground, that's presenting as being injured, and at that point, then we're killing the clock and stopping the game for that injury. And if the ball has been spotted and it's been made ready for play, then right there, that's going to be the timeout charged or the delay of game to that team that the injury occurred to. So, that's the protection, right? I mean, we're not going to get involved on any of it. If we still suspect, potential injury, we're still going to stop the game. If we have a concussion, we're going to stop the game. We're going to protect the players from that perspective. So, it's just the timing element of when we're spotting it and making the ball ready for play is the key there. And
Okay.
so, obviously coaches are doing a great job of training their players that if they're truly injured, they're probably going to stay down on the ground after the play and not fight it as much as they have in the past. And then that way before we've spotted the ball, we kill it and they go off for a play and then they make it back on, hopefully, because it's not a major injury for them. So, it's been pretty smooth the first 2 weeks. We've had a few injuries and few plays like that, but I think it's been pretty good. And I think, coaches are, thinking ways that they can navigate that and try to prevent from potential timeouts, because that's the most valuable thing for any coach, right? In high school and college and even the professional game, those timeouts, man, are so valuable. And, I hate, being a referee in that moment when you have to charge a timeout that's really unnecessary. So, that's kind of where we're at from that perspective.
Yeah, as somebody who's still coaching again youth football right now, but yeah, having to burn
Yeah.
one of those timeouts when you don't want to. I mean, heck, I shoot myself. I get mad at myself when I burn one on a special teams play or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But sometimes you have to
Absolutely.
do it. But it kind of kick yourself because when it comes late in the
Yeah.
game, you want to have that in your hip pocket if you can.
No doubt. It's almost worse than having a penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Potentially.
So I'm going to pull up. I'm going to share my screen here, and this is from Steve Shaw, and it says the CFO NCAA preseason video 1, and I'm going to just kind of let this play through.
So we got, the center judge right there, umpire has already spotted the ball. And
Okay.
so they've made that ball ready for play.
And now our focus is going to be, I think, on the bottom.
Yeah, you got that player rolling right there in the middle. The defensive player drops after that ball was spotted.
Let me just rewind a little bit. I know.
Yeah.
Can you hear the commentary that Steve has through on your end?
I cannot, no.
Okay. So, yep, right here in the middle here, the defensive guy again. That sniper action, being circled, looking to the sideline first, and then he just collapses. So that's just one of many that we've seen, and again, it continues. Got one more here. I'll let play through. This looks like North Carolina, Georgia Tech, possibly, or North Carolina, definitely. Big NC in the middle of the field.
They've got two of them right there
Yeah.
for sure. So, yeah. And you could see, I mean, obviously in these situations, you've got, the ball's made ready for play. And, they did not have the opportunity to truly match up and meet that package. So they know they're at that disadvantage. And so, if they do go to the ground like that, that's the win for the defense, because we stop the clock and then we get the right people out there on the field for them to match up. And so, this year there's a little penalty to that. You get to burn that timeout. And, if you don't have it, then it's a 5-yard foul. So,
Now, what is the clock status on that delay game foul on the defense particularly?
it depends on, it's the same clock status as we would normally have. So, if the clock is running and we've got a defensive injury, we're going to come back and wind it up and go. Now, if it's under 2 and we've got some of the different scoring factors that come into it, a team that's ahead or a team that's behind will have the option of having it on the ready or the snap. So we wouldn't use the clock as a disadvantage there either. And we would keep that in mind too with the 3-4-3 rule, where referees have an opportunity to start it on the snap. So we don't want coaches to take advantage of that late in the second or even the fourth quarter. So that's something that would be in the back of my mind from a situational awareness perspective.
Yep. Now I want to go back and just share the still image of this screen here, because as we see in the image on the left hand side, there is one player who went down to the ground holding his leg, and then a secondary player in the middle of the field who mysteriously had it looks like he popped a hamstring all of a sudden, but he's still upright. He hasn't gone
Mm-hmm.
down to the ground. Now, when you guys have to kill this play, do both players have to leave the field for a play, or just the player that went down?
Yeah, I think for both players, we definitely would identify that they are both injured because they do present that here. So we would send them both off.
Okay. Now,
Yep.
is that kind of a judgment thing on if
Yep.
if the second player doesn't go down and all of a sudden he's just walking normal, but the first one definitely is down?
For sure. For sure.
Okay. So once again, it's a burn timeout or it's going to be a 5-yard delay game penalty.
That's correct.
All right.
Yep.
So now, second thing with that, are you seeing it more in particular styles of game? I know right now we're early in the season, so I mean the heat is always going to be an issue. The hydration, just the game shape. Like you said, you're going into week 3, but for some teams it might only be their second game coming up with
Yep.
0 weeks and different things like that. Do you see it in different situations, different times of the year, different type of game situations where it's kind of popping up, or is it just some regular gamesmanship that you see?
Yeah, I think, early in the year, it's going to be more, just from a physical ability or not physical ability, but just the capacity that the workload has been presented for the players. I mean, a lot of them are in great shape, but, that game speed and the game mode is not quite there yet. So they're still getting used to it. So I think, early in the season, we're going to see a few more of those, crampings and some of those physical contact points that they haven't been used to through summer camp. So we anticipate a few more injuries early in the season, and then it progressively gets easier from that standpoint. So, it's just a little more awareness. Obviously, it's the new rule piece of it too. So we're
Yeah.
all sensitive to that, and we want to make sure that we are as consistent as we possibly can, across the country as we navigate this thing. So, yeah, a few more weeks probably, with the temperatures is where they're at across the country. But once we get to late September, early October, that usually settles in. And, most of the time it's going to be, true injuries. I think you saw it a lot last year in those offenses that were really up tempo and trying to catch those defenses off guard. So, that's probably not going to happen as often, but we did see that a little bit this first week of the season. I think there was a pretty good example of one. Tennessee and Syracuse had one where the umpire was holding the ball, or center judge was holding the ball before, and the player on the outside fell down with an apparent injury, and they had not spotted the ball, and therefore there was not a charged timeout. So, it's just that piece of it that we've got to navigate on the field and work through that as the year goes on.
So walk myself through and the listeners through the spotting of the ball and the different thing between either the umpire or the center judge, depending upon the situation. Like what
Yeah.
is your tempo and what is your train of thought and with your crew? What are you telling them to do so that you kind of, again, we've always talked about preventative officiating. We don't want to have
Yeah.
to hurt a team, but we also don't want to slow a team down if they're running a no huddle or a hurry up type of offense.
Yeah. With our play clock, we start with that 40 seconds. And so kind of the rule of thumb really is right around spotting the ball between 32 to 28 that clock, on the play clock. So, somewhere in there, depending on a normal play. I mean, if it's at the umpire's feet, just take a quick breath and look around. I mean, he may or she may spot it somewhere around 34, 33. Um, but ideally it's around that point, give them about 8 to 10 seconds, after the play has been over to, snap it from there. So that's kind of the pace. I like that because I think that's pretty consistent and you can be consistent across the country, and then the offense can do what they need to do from there. So if we're spotting it at 30, 38, 36, you're going to have close to 200 snaps a game, and
Yeah.
that pace is just not sustainable. So try to be consistent for both teams. So if I'm spotting between 32 and 28 every play, I'm really confident with it. And as a referee, I'm constantly looking at the play clock on that.
Yeah, and I could attest to, we had a state playoff game this past year. I've talked about it where the team told us we will snap the ball approximately every 15 seconds. So when you're talking
Yep.
about having the ball spotted within 8 seconds, even that team, which was right on the ball, no huddle, looking to the sidelines, bam, it still's giving them 7 seconds if you do.
Yep.
think that was it. 8 + 7, yeah, 15.
Yeah.
So still gave him plenty of
Yep.
time in order to get it done. So it is a good amount of time. It's still rapid, and you guys are hustling, but you're not rushing.
Yep. Yep.
So I think the next thing I want to talk about then is, and I know this was a point of emphasis last year. I'm looking over at my notes to the side. Is the defensive stemming and the moving and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. I think this year the NCAA has kind of put in a couple of key words and stuff like that for teams to not use or to use in order to move and different things like that. So first,
Yep.
if we could backtrack, can you explain what I'm saying with the stemming rule that was put into place last year?
Yeah, so I mean, this has been there. It's just more about the how the defense changes their front and what they're trying to do pre-snap prior to the snap of the offense. And so they may change from an even front to an odd front. And the key really is just that they cover some ground, right? We want to make sure that we see a smooth movement where they cover some space. They move from that even front to an odd front. They're doing things to catch the offense off guard a little bit so that they can change up their blocking schemes and that type of thing. And so over the last couple of years, that's been one of those things where the defense has tried to take advantage of that by how fast they move, how abrupt they move, really trying to get the offense to maybe false start if they do it, um, you know, effectively enough. And so that was kind of one of those areas that we wanted to target and look at and adjust. And so this year we brought in a couple terms that between the offense and the defense, who was using what. We really just wanted to make sure that we could try to get it as simple as possible from that perspective. And I think the rules committee was able to achieve that. And so now the defense can use terms like move and stem, and so that those are reserved for them. And so the offense can't say that. So the quarterback can't use that as their snap cadence. And then on the offensive side of the ball, only the quarterback or the offense can clap and use their hands to signal for a snap. And so the defense is not allowed to do that. And we had seen that a little bit over the last couple of years where the defense was using the clap signal as their way to signal for the front to move. And so that's a key piece. And then it's how you say it as well. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to say move, it's got to be a smooth move. It can't be really abrupt and exaggerated with a head bob or anything along those lines. And so I'm really just trying to clean that up. And, we've seen that, over the first, couple games. It hasn't been, too much of a hassle, but it is something that we've talked to coaches about and discussed what they were, trying to accomplish when it comes to that.
And I like that they put in the trigger words to per se, because me as an umpire in the high school level, being in the defensive backfield, there's times where the center's coming up to me and they're like, Mr. Official, they're calling out our cadence. And I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
they're calling out stem, or they're calling out like different things like that. So if your cadence happens to reflect something that they do on there, I can't penalize them. But
Right.
now NCAA has put, okay, these are the words that are reserved for the defense. These are the words reserved for the offense. So it kind of clears that up. So, and I know because of our depth, sometimes I'm behind the linebacker. So a lot of times
Yep.
I can't even, when they're vocalizing it towards an offensive line, it's something that I might not be
Yep.
able to hear. So I'm also
Yep.
going to deflect to my short wings. Are you seeing that guy doing anything to try to simulate a snap on the defensive side? Um,
Yep.
but I want to dive a little bit more into the clapping, because I know uh, talked about the Rose Bowl, the playoff games. You got some loud stadiums that are going on there.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
a lot of the times when you see a defense clap, it's not necessarily a simulating the snap type of play. It's them trying to
Right.
get the attention of somebody that might be on a wing outside. It's a linebacker calling out to an outside linebacker, or even a cornerback, trying to get their attention. Like, hey, yo, look at me.
Yep.
Now, is that something that is still going to fall under that?
Yeah, it's going to be a foul. Yeah, I mean it's pretty cut and dry on that, which is fantastic. So if we see any of that action where we are, the defensive player is clapping, we're going to go against the defense on that for a foul. So no matter how loud the stadium is, I think there was a good example this past weekend. I forget which game it was. I think it might have been in the Big Ten, but the defensive player was doing just that, right? Clapping to get the attention of his teammates, and it was just enough of a clap to where the offensive team reacted. There was zero intent. It was just him trying to communicate with his teammate. And, you've got to go with the delay game of the defense on that one.
So now, if the offense doesn't react, do you have
Yep.
anything? Or are you still throwing that one to kind of?
With with a clap, yes.
Okay.
Yep. We're not gonna work through that. If we have a stem call or a move call where, it's questionable to the abruptness of it and there was zero reaction by the offense, some crews and some people around the country will probably use that as a warning depending on how abrupt the action, was. But we also got the charge too from Steve Shaw on that too, that if there's an abrupt movement that's non-football act, a lot of hand movement or head bobbing and things of that nature, we can automatically call it that way. So I think the more aggressive we handle it from the officiating standpoint, we'll probably get it, under control earlier in the season.
Yeah.
So
Kind of set that tone early and let
yeah,
everybody learn from it. So
yep,
now on the offensive side, you still got the claps, you still got the different shifts and stuff like that. Is it still going to be the same thing for them? If the offense moves abruptly on a shift, it kind of simulates a snap. You're going to hit them now for a false start.
yep, yep, absolutely. You see those tight ends shift from one side to the other. If it's an abrupt, quick movement that simulates the snap, we will go false start, especially if the defense reacts to it too. So that's something that pre-snap, is in the mind of our line of scrimmage, my umpire, center judge, and referees too that are paying attention to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yep,
and it's ironically I'm bringing this up because we just had a game this past weekend where an offense shifted both guards and tackles on a cadence.
mm-hmm.
They would shift them and flop sides because they had a strong guard, strong tackle, so they wanted to flip their strength of their formation. And our short wings hit them twice on false start penalties because the defense jumped. When
Yeah,
the defense didn't jump, they didn't hit them, which we discussed after the game. But when the defense did jump off sides, because in high school, once you break the neutral zone, it stops the play. But we hit them on a false start, and the coach was like, "No, we told you guys this before the game." We're like, "Well, coach, that's simulating a snap because that one kid that was doing it was almost doing a skip pull type of technique, and the
yep,
other guy looked like he was kind of pass setting before he was shuffling over because two guys had to get deeper than the other two guys that were shifting over, so it was simulating a snap. So I watching it on film, I think we still got it correct. It was
yep,
it was something that was brought up in our meetings for our association, and we discussed at length too. But it was something that we're still seeing, and people shifting and trying to
yep,
just, and it wasn't intended to try to get the defense to jump off sides. It was intended to gain a formational advantage, but the way that they were
sure,
doing it, it wasn't a smooth transition. It was abrupt, so it had to be called.
absolutely. I love that. Coach puts you in a box on that for sure. But at the end of the day, I mean, if it falls into that category, we've got to get that under control. And hey, coach, you can do it, but just make sure that, in tonight's game, I need it to look like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how we're going to officiate it. So gotta love it, man.
Yeah, and that was our pregame conference with him, and he told us
Man.
about it, and so we're like, okay, so we brought it up in our pregame conference with our crew before we walked out onto the field. And the first time that they ran it, short wing threw it and came in. He's like, nope, that's a false start. That was a snap right there. I'm like, all right, let's go with it. Like you saw, he had the better angle than I had too, but it wasn't what the coach was describing because I emphasized, hey, just make sure it's smooth, make sure it's not something
Sure.
sudden, because it's the same thing now as your quarterback with the hard counts, and they're smacking their head forward and throwing their hands forward and stuff like that.
Yep.
Or the old Dallas Cowboy, hand down to the ground, shooting it down to the ground. So all those things, if well, you weren't doing that the whole game, so it's going to be penalized at that point.
Yep. For sure.
All right, so we talked about the defense. I'm sorry, the clapping and the stemming and stuff like that. What about the defenseless players? Has there been any modifications to what's going on with a defenseless player? I saw something about with a loose ball type of play.
Yeah, I think, just when there is a loose ball, that's putting them in a vulnerable position. So that was added to the defenseless category, I believe, this year. Um, nothing major on that. I mean, we're still protecting those players. Just to make sure, that if there is contact to the head and neck area, that we do have good eyes on that from a targeting perspective, and just making sure that they're safe. And so, um, the other part of that too was just kind of the roughing the passer.
Okay.
Quarterback can still have that ball in his hand, looking downfield, and he would be defenseless in category two. So,
Interesting. That one I didn't realize. So how would that differentiate from then roughing the passer as opposed to a defenseless player, or would that be both?
Yeah, it would be both. So if that quarterback is in that passing posture and looking downfield to make that pass, and a defender comes in and makes high contact to that passer, he's putting himself in a really tough position for potential roughing the passer with targeting there.
Okay. Are you guys
Yeah.
tacking on two penalties? Is that a 30-yarder?
No, that would be 15
Okay.
only. Yep.
But it's now
Yep.
up for review and possible ejection from the game,
Disqualification.
disqualification. Thank you. Um,
Yep. Yep.
okay. That's definitely interesting. Now, the one that I wanted to ask you about is, I mean, on a fumble, when the ball's loose and bouncing around on the ground, it's like the Wild West at times, where people are
Yep.
blocking in the back, shoving people out of the way, different things like that. Do you potentially have defenseless players on that, or are you kind of just focusing on the targeting aspect of it, of the head and neck area?
On that one, I mean, they by definition, it's a player attempting to recover a loose ball, right? And so it's not going to allow that other player, the other team B player, um, to just seek out and target an opponent there. So if they are attempting to recover it and they're lowering that shoulder or they're driving that helmet into the head and neck area, we just got to be able to see that on the field, that player is in a vulnerable position. So it's an interesting one. I mean, there is a lot of, like you said, it's a wild west when it comes to recovering a loose ball. But I think it's a lot easier to pick up that person who's kind of swimming upstream and
Mm-hmm.
seeking out an opponent. And so, in those dead ball areas or even in those situations, our backside officials need to have a good attention on those potential players getting smoked. So,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, and the
yeah,
play in particular that I'm thinking of is like that muffed punt, and all of a sudden the ball is just out in front of the returner, and somebody is coming in full steam, and they're diving for the ball. They're attempting to get that loose ball, that fumble that's on the ground, while
yep,
now the returner is also going to get that ball, and all of a sudden now you have a car crash in essence.
yep,
Is that something that is reviewable, or is that something that you're gonna?
yeah. Yeah, they'll review that. They definitely will take a look at it. I mean, if it's two players going for a ball and there's a car crash, that's not the definition of a targeting there, right?
Okay.
So you've got to have an opponent that is seeking and driving. There's got to be that, you know, launch or some sort of indicator that's going to be presented that we need to see to confirm the elements of targeting. And so we would do the same thing on the field looking for those, and then replay would come in and create that foul if they saw it, or have us uphold that when it comes to a review if we called it on the field.
Okay, so that actually made me think of something. The replay can call the foul.
Yep.
Can they wave it off?
They could tell us to pick it up. Yes.
Okay,
Yep. Yep. There is no foul for targeting that we called on the field. Yes.
good. That I because I think earlier when that rule first came into play, you couldn't pick it back up, and the player
Yeah.
wouldn't be disqualified, but they're still getting the penalty.
There was some elements of that a few years back for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
How about talk about your sidelines? Talk about sportsmanship and different things like that with coaches decorum and things like that. Is there anything that has been changed or kind of tweaked with that?
Yeah, the only thing different that you'll see this year is that brandishing of a weapon, which came down, through the NFL, I think last year, and is getting into the game more and more. And so, um, we're not allowed to do any of that kind of stuff from an unsportsmanlike conduct perspective. So anytime there's simulation of a gun or shooting of a gun, brandishing a weapon, anytime anything like that, that's going to be an automatic unsportsmanlike conduct. Now, hopefully, we're seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
The players are really, really good at celebrating after a long catch or doing something that's, right in front of the camera, and we're still kind of cleaning up the play. So they have a tendency to find those blind spots for the officials. So hopefully we're alert to that. But any kind of shooting element from that perspective that represents a gun will be an automatic unsportsmanlike conduct foul. So um, that's where we're at in the game. And then anytime, but any kind of taunting, if I'm taunting directly at a player, and I'm seeking that player out, that's going to be an automatic. But any kind of celebratory thing, after a first down, that's just normal celebration, maybe spinning of the ball, things of that nature. You're going to see a lot of those not be called this year.
Okay.
Because we're kind of leaning the other way now from that perspective. Celebrating with teammates, that type of thing is kind of it's great for the game. It's great for just the image of it too, because they're celebrating. As long as they're doing it, in the right manner and not directing towards an opponent, you'll see a lot of that. Now we still won't do the throat slashes and the spiking of the ball and that type of thing, but a spin and a first down or drawing attention to a player, it's probably going to be allowed. So
Yeah,
without a foul.
throat slashing, excuse me, was one of the original ones that came into play. But now you're seeing the bow and arrow, and
Yep.
you're seeing the pistols. Who was it? Was it Jared Allen? I know he used to hog tie people after a sack, but didn't he do pistols too, if I remember correctly, back in the day? I don't mean, Mr. Allen, if you're listening, which I don't think you are, but I don't mean any offense, because well, you got that gold jacket on now, so.
That's right.
um,
Yep.
but now it's getting a little bit out of control with some of the players with the guns. I mean, you've seen the jerseys being pulled up for them showing that simulating a firearm in their waist pocket and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now, what about first down? And I'm going like this with
Yep.
I've got my hands just two fingers together, kind of like I'm pointing at Disney World here, because Mickey Mouse can't point with one finger; he's got to point with two.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of pointing with two fingers here. That could be misconstrued as me making an air gun.
Yep. Yep. So, you just players got to be smart when it comes to that. Don't put yourself in that gray area where the officiating crew has to make a decision, when it comes down to that. If we're pointing, that's going to be different. But if we're going to simulate or try to make that image looking like a gun or anything along those lines, and you're putting yourself into a spot that we have to make a decision on it. So hopefully players learn from that and don't put us in a tough spot when we're in a big yard gain there, and they've done a heck of a play and they're doing everything the right way. So finish the play, celebrate real quick, don't do that, and get back to the huddle and let's play the next snap. So
So I don't know if you could honestly answer this one, but it's always something that's in the back of my mind, which I still don't get from playing, from coaching, and now officiating, is the finger going across underneath the nose. I call it the sniffing of the finger as they're pointing for a first down.
yeah,
Do you understand that?
I, I don't yet. I don't think I'm not coached up well enough on that one. From that perspective, I think that's one of the NFL ones that they're looking at this year that they're going to call a foul for. So I have not been educated on that one. So no comment today.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And if we end up getting to that point, in the NCAA level or even in the high school level, and knowing why we don't want to do that, that's a key piece of it, right? Because it's an image thing for the game, and we want to make sure that it's still a game.
Yeah,
So
and I'm a health teacher too, so that's why I'm kind of bringing it up, because we teach
yeah,
different lessons like that in my high school health class, but so it's not apropos for certain for certain audiences.
yep, it's correct.
Um, so now I think it was pre-record. You were talking about some of the terminology now that they've kind of clarified for you as an official for your announcements and things like that. So can you talk us through a little bit of that?
Yeah, this year from a replay standpoint, you're just going to hear a term upheld. So after review, the ruling on the field is upheld. You will not hear a confirmation or a stance. You're not going to see that distinguished difference at all. So, after review, we're either going to reverse some ruling on the field, or you're just going to hear upheld. And so that's just going to be the two options that'll start coming through throughout the games throughout the year. So um, it's a little bit of a difference, but again, we've spent from a replay standpoint a lot of time hemming and hawing back and forth on what a confirmation is or what a stands should be. And so if we can save an extra 30 seconds here and there on a stoppage, we're not changing the ruling. So why would we fight to try to find a confirmation on the field? I think is what the premise was of that. And makes a lot of sense. The officiating group on the field is a little upset about that because we always want that confirmation because we know we've got the right ruling on the field. And anytime we get that, it's always an attaboy or an attagirl in that
Yeah.
situation. So, we're not going to hear that this year, but, some referees have talked a little bit about, maybe we put a little pizzazz or jazz into the upheld piece that gives a little more, clarity to the correct ruling on the field through the term upheld. So we'll see how that develops as the year goes on when we have those types of situations. But
I,
if there's not indisputable evidence to overturn it, ruling on the field is upheld.
I like it. I like it. But I could
Yeah,
definitely see how that you're not getting that thumbs up or whatever it may be, and for the layperson out there, hearing one term as opposed to the other, it definitely through. Oh, how
yeah,
come that wasn't overturned, or how come that wasn't confirmed? And so now, if it's
yeah.
cut and dry, it's one or the other. Move on. Here we go. In your O2O, you guys can give each other the attaboy because you did
That's
the
right.
right thing. So, yep.
That's right.
No,
That's right. There's a lot of that banter back and forth for sure.
I mean, it's not like
Mhm.
when you wear the stripes, you're scrutinized for anything. So, I mean,
Right. I mean, there's definitely that for sure. Yeah, exactly.
um, so let's move on to our real world stuff. And I'm going to hold up my cell phone here because I deal with it in high school. But technology, how is technology coming into play more and more at the collegiate level?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, the cameras, right? More and more usage of cameras. I think that's been a big piece of, the better quality, right? And so you get a little better still frame and better shots when you get those higher quality cameras. So better looks from that standpoint. So that impacts our ruling. So, it's important for us to be mechanically sound. And I think that's the better the technology, the more pressure it puts on us to be in the right position to make the right call. And so, that's our best judgment. We still see the game at the fast speed that it's presented with. And so we still give our best ruling. Um, but again, with a better technology, we're probably going to stop the game a little bit more just to take a look at, did we see all the different elements of the play that will confirm or uphold the ruling on the field? And so, expect that. We talk about game time. I know the first couple games this season we talk about too long, right? Like media breaks, and it's looking over 3 hours, three and a half hours is kind of where that line is. Um, but again, pace of play is important, but yet we still have long media breaks and more stoppages when it comes to replay because we have those camera angles. So it's just part of the game. We want to be as perfect as we can, and so that's kind of what we have to give and take right now with what the current clock rules and that type of thing are in place. So it's an interesting dynamic, but technology is here and it's moving.
Yeah, and again, NFHS wise, we really don't have to worry about it much. But when you're talking NFL and you're talking big time college football, it's big business. So I don't know many
Hmm.
TV stations that are too worried about you taking too much time and them getting an extra commercial break in
Hmm.
there for their sponsors because that's more money in their pockets
For sure.
and then back it trickles down to the colleges itself. So it's or the NFL, I should say too. I mean, I don't want to just
Yeah.
single out the NCAA, but it it helps their pockets, and it is big business that for 99% of the population, it's entertainment value, and but we want it to be right.
But you're seeing it too, more and more in high schools too, right? I mean, you've got a lot of drone cameras that are flying above,
Yeah.
and people are taking shots of that. And you've got different. I mean, I got a couple high schools around here in New Orleans that are working, 4 or 5 cameras in their games now, and so you're getting different camera angles that pop up on huddle that you wouldn't have had, 4 or 5 years ago, and now they have them. That way coaches know a little bit more. They have a little more tape on their players. It benefits them because they can send those to the recruiters and that type of thing from that perspective. But it also brings on that much more of an emphasis on making sure we're getting the calls correct on the field too. And so I know signers and different trainers, position trainers and things of that nature in the high school are emphasizing that more and more. And um, you know that that video from the fan from their phone that's on the sideline
Yep.
that can show up on X or TikTok or whatever else that's out there that can actually give that ruling that you may or may not have gotten correct on the field. And then all of a sudden it blows up all over the place and people are like, can you believe that they missed this call? Well, yeah, the way it happened and how fast the game is, yeah, I can see that. But there's not a replay element to fix that in high school. And so, still that human error is a big piece of it. So
Yeah.
technology is here, right? It's rolling, and we just have to embrace it. And, hopefully high schools over time will, I know a lot of the state championships, you're seeing more replay opportunities and that type of thing
Oh
too.
yeah.
So, it's here to stay. So,
So now with you guys with the replay system, and I've had a couple of guests on talking about replay. Are you finding is it pretty much status quo across the different stadiums that you're going to now? There has to be at least a minimum requirement, I would assume, but when you go to a Rose Bowl or to a semifinal or a championship game or something like that, there's got to be even more cameras around. Do they
mm,
cap it at a certain point? Is there a minimum at a certain point?
I don't know if they've reached that yet. I think some of the different things that the semifinal and the quarterfinal, we had, cameras that were on some of our officials, chests. They had a chest camera through their jersey and that type of thing. So you got a little bit more of a um, entertainment value from that perspective if they caught a shot that they wanted to use. You have your pylon cams, you have your line to gain cams in some of those games, which that's a bigger package when it comes to that. There is some conferences standardize it, right? Different conferences have different
Okay.
standard packages for their games, depending on who their broadcast partner is for that game. So, um, I mean, minimum you're probably looking at 8 cameras a game most of the time, and they're all pretty standardized. You got your 3 up over the top, so you got your 25, 50, 25. Then you usually got your high end zone, your low end zone. You got a handheld or a cart, something along those lines. And so, yeah, it's pretty standard. So replay is getting more and more used to those major 8 cameras that they can use, to do most of their work when it comes to confirmations and navigating those plays. So
Now, were you able to get the feed of those body cams in essence that you're talking about? Is that something that you could have used to help with a ruling, or is that just something entertainment wise?
if they got the replay from the program feed, they could um, send that to the replay booth and use that as a replay.
Wow.
So that is something that they could use. Now we didn't. It's hard because they're moving,
Yeah.
and if they get a shot, they get a shot. But it is an interesting camera, that's for sure. So
Yeah, it definitely is, and I know you also do some officiating in the professional level with the UFL, and I know that they've had some different camera angles, that the hat angle and different things like that. And I personally enjoy it, but I tried doing it. Let me see if I can find that. Here we go. I got I
mhm.
got a little spy pen here that I tucked into my
That's right.
pocket for a game, and then I went back and I watched it, and I almost got myself sick because I was bouncing around so much.
Right.
Even though I
Right.
try to have those sniper eyes and stay still, that sniper is happening for a half second, and then all of a sudden I got to move or I'm about to get
Right.
trucked. So it wasn't as
That's
good
right.
as a
Get out of the way.
clip as I was hoping for, but yeah, it's out there. But yeah, I didn't realize that you guys were possibly referring back to that type of information.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So, at this point, is there anything else that I'm missing that is new or something that our listeners should know for the 2025 season, or something that is in talks? I know at NFHS we have stuff that's going to be a rule in 2028 when it comes to different things. Is there stuff down the road that we can look forward to, or are you guys pretty good
Uh,
now?
yeah, I think I'm hoping we're good. I know there's always plays that happen throughout the
Yeah.
season that present some of those challenges and that type of thing too. So, um, I think the game is in a great spot right now. I think the timing element and how fast games are being played. Um, that's always something that we hear about in the off season that they may be revisiting or looking at. I don't know what that magic number is. I'm sure viewership from the last couple of weeks as the season got started. I'm sure it's up, and that percentage is there. So I don't think, like you said earlier, people care too much about a 3.5 hour ball game. So as long as we continue to do a great job with that, the game is in a great place, and we'll continue to modify and tweak when we can. But right now, I think we're in a good spot. So
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with you there. I know NFHS wise, I think our big rule change was just the forward fumble out of bounds. So
Yep.
it's not a drastic change. So I think we're just now more so with those points of emphasis and
Mhm.
hey, let's just get better at what we're doing to make the game better and better for everybody else.
That's right. That's right.
Well,
You
Mike,
know,
once again, I truly do appreciate you taking the time to jump on here with us. I hope the listeners were able to get something out of this. Once again, Michael VanderVelde, Big 12 Conference, UFL, uh, bowl game near you soon.
nah, just another guy getting ready to work another game at some point, right?
Absolutely, we all
So
are, guy or gal, just getting ready to work another game, but Michael, you've been touched, so you've gotten some really good ones to experience. So I appreciate you taking the time again. Once again, you're this weekend, Big 12. Who do you got?
we will be traveling to Ohio, West Virginia at Ohio. So looking forward to a great ball game down there, and yeah, play by play, snap by snap.
Yep,
See if we can navigate the game as well as we can.
I think you said it was what, maybe like 2.5 hours from Morgantown to Ohio.
Yeah, it's not too far away. So should be pretty good crowds there
Awesome,
in Athens. So it's going to be a good game. Looking forward to it, and keep getting better as we work through those plays. And the crew is going to be on fire, ready to go.
awesome. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, Mike, thank you very much. Truly do appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you're doing. Look forward to watching you in some upcoming games. And I didn't even realize you were working that game this past weekend. I was sitting there, I'm like, oh, that's Mike. There he is. So it's fun catching you guys on there and seeing you. I haven't gotten onto football zebra or zebra football and see where different crews are going for each particular week. But it's something I definitely want to do. So once again, Mike, truly do appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you do for not only NCAA, not only Whistle Talk, and NFHS officials around the country too. So truly appreciate it. Thank you once again.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for letting me have a few minutes with you guys.
Uh,
Have a good week, and good luck tomorrow.
Thank
Have
you.
a great game.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, man.